to my space. Happy Easter. If you don't celebrate, I hope that you are spending today reflecting, feeling refreshed, and preparing yourself for the week ahead. So today's video is a bit different. Okay, we set the framework. We went ahead and talked about some personal things that I have going on, but I also want to use this platform as a space for us to gain resources from each other and for us to really put each other on game, right? There are a lot of things in your young adulthood that you will encounter, especially when it comes to finances and money, that a lot of people don't talk about because people don't want to talk about their earning potential. People don't want to talk about how much money they make. We all just kind of exist and live in limbo and just figure it out on our own. So today I kind of just wanted to talk about the job market, some of the things that you may encounter while you're trying to find a job, and just overall how to start and where to start when you're thinking about your earning potential and using your accolades or your degree and so on. So that's what we're going to get into today. So if you're interested in money and finances and finding a job that fits you, stay tuned. So first I kind of want to get into where I was at when I first graduated college. So when I first graduated college, my major was journalism, and I kind of went out into the field feeling like it's, in terms of journalism, it probably would not be a career that I would find much promise in if I was not connected at my university. Unfortunately, I spent a lot of time with my head in the books thinking that if I had the proper grades, I would be fine, but I did not spend enough time networking. So we all know that's a number one huge tip in finding out what's gonna offer jobs post-graduation is networking. So there's that. So as I graduated and I applied places, I received a rejection letter after rejection letter, and it was extremely discouraging, and I was very confused on what I needed to do in order to find a job. So what I ended up doing is I ended up kind of switching my degree a little bit and marketing it to become a teacher and to get into childcare. So for a little while, for the first couple of years outside of school, I got into childcare, but I knew that it wasn't something I was going to stay in for the long term. But the main thing I will have to say that I learned during that season when I first got out of school is that there are unwritten rules to the professional world, and professional jobs want to know that you are equipped for doing the job. They don't want you to spend much time dedicated to really talking about yourself in a personal sense. They just want to hear that you're equipped for the job and that you're a good learner and that you can adapt to their environment as seamlessly as possible. So one mistake I really made during that time post-grad in my interviews, when I look back on it, is when they would ask me questions, I would go on a tangent just to really get them to know me and get a sense of who I was. But looking back on it, I realized that I basically talked too much. I didn't give them just enough to kind of let them know that I was equipped. I gave them too much, and they kind of felt like this girl might take the job too personally, or she might not know how to keep her emotions and logic in two separate realms. So I really overspoke a lot. So those were a couple of the things that I made a couple of mistakes that I made when I was first coming into the job market in Texas. And I kind of realized that Texas as a whole kind of offers a very low start out rate for anything, whether it be entry level or your first time experiencing a certain field. They're really gonna kind of lowball you just because this is a more affordable state. This is a more kind of raise a family, kind of slower state. So they're not gonna be as competitive on what they're gonna offer you financially. So you kind of also have to go in prepared to really negotiate your salary and really sell yourself in order to get what you're worth. So as far as the job market in Texas, that was also one of the things when I first graduated that kind of drove me out, because it was really hard for me to find something that I, one, enjoyed, two, sparked my interest, and also was well paid. So I kind of just did odd jobs here and there until I relocated back to New York. Once I relocated back to New York, it kind of showed me a lot more of how those unwritten rules came into play. Because at that point, I was very vigilant. I knew that I wanted a job that was gonna sustain me because I was already living with family. So I wanted enough money to kind of do what I needed to do, ride the train, move around, get all of my necessities met. So I really took a strong look at my resume. I'm not saying lie. Okay, I'm not saying lie. Use that as your at your discretion, right? Don't totally make up a job, but really start to think about adjectives, about verbs that you can use on your resume that really show and express the fact that you had an instrumental part in your role in that job. So I really took a strong look at my resume. I kind of continued to run with the nanny and professional and teaching care world, just because that's always going to be a world in high demand. People are always looking for for people to take care of their kids. So I kind of just kept looking into that a lot more. But essentially speaking, on any general level, you really have to brush up your resume and really kind of talk yourself up. If you're a humble person, the job search is not a place to be humble. You have to say exactly what it is that you learned, how you're proficient, how you can be an asset to them. So I ended up getting hired on with this agency that was very high paying, and it kind of just finally exposed me to what it could be like to really be paid somewhat of what you're worth. Let's be honest, you'll never be paid what you're worth in this market. That's the main thing when I first got out of school that I realized is there's really no framework for people within my generation. There's no job that you start out with fresh out of college and you stay there till you're old and gray. There's really none of that for us right now. The job market is kind of changing to the point where you can't really keep your loyalty in one place, right? You always have to be looking out there on what's better, what's going to offer me more, what's going to give me more growth. You can't really put yourself and all of your potential in one place, because even with COVID, we see careers and industries that totally ended based off of the fact that we went through the global pandemic. So all in all, jobs itself and the security that they bring has changed drastically during the time of maybe the early 2000s to now. And of course, if we want this to be a history channel, we sure can, because I'm extremely passionate about this stuff and I just really wanted to wrap my head around it. And that's what essentially inspired this video. Is I am always in the job market. I'm always searching, and I went to an interview that was disguised as like a branding kind of social media position, and when I got there, it ended up being a marketing position. And one of the interns, and you'll notice there's a couple of things environmentally that you will notice about a marketing job. And I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Sorry to Bother You, but it is basically a movie about a call center and about marketing and how you have to sell numbers and be this salesman and use your white voice and all of these other kind of innuendos that it gets into. But all in all, it's a great movie to show a representation of what those kind of companies look like. And I can definitely say a couple of weeks ago, I went to a couple of interviews, and the environment's always extremely young. There are a lot of young people, because how they sell young people on marketing positions is the fact that you have unlimited earning potential, right? As long as you work hard, you can earn as much as you want. Sky is the limit. So that's one thing. And millennials don't like to be tied down. They don't like to feel like they're at a set rate and there's no way that they can grow. So that's one way that they get younger people. Another way that they get them is they say that there's no chain of command. There's no one that's going to promote you or fire you. You control your trajectory and your growth level in the company based upon how much you sell. So people love to hear that as well, because it feels like there's no one that you have to report to. You are your own boss, if you will. So that's another way that they try to get young people in the door. So I went to a couple of these interviews. There was techno music playing in the lobby. It was super high energy, right? They want you to be excited about what they're going to offer you. And like I said, one of the young people who was already working within the company, that's how they interviewed you. They broke you off with other young people who were already working with the company, and we can just like walk to the local coffee shop. And I'm like, honestly, girl, like I came here to sit down with a board of people, with the HR director. Like, I'm a little bit more old fashioned in how I prefer my money. I might not prefer it in work politics and like environment, but the hiring process, I want to feel legitimate, right? So all that to say, I kind of wanted to share my own personal stories on how I've kind of just embarked on this whole job search hunting journey, and how there's been some level of frustration in it for me as well. So with that being said, I definitely want to highlight today scams, high level scams that are happening, that are masked as entry level marketing, or any other name for that matter, and a better way to detect them so that you don't fall victim to being super excited about a potential job opportunity, and then you go and it's basically selling a product and then also building your own team and all of these other things that you did not sign up for. And everybody that I've talked to who's graduated with me within the past 2 years can speak to the experience of going to an interview thinking it's going to be legitimate, and then you sit there and they spew you out this whole pitch that you're selling this product or working with this internet company or selling insurance, door-to-door sales, if you will. So stay tuned for a couple of those pointers on how to spot out these jobs, and also potentially how to find a job that's more legitimate or willing to pay you more. I went to an interview, and after this interview, I was so frustrated with the fact that I had yet again kind of fallen into this kind of experience. So I actually found an article, which I will cite in the information box below if you want to read yourself. And it basically talked about a lot of the pointers that these job postings will have that you can kind of signal off and know that it's a scam, or it's a sales job, or it's door-to-door, and all of those other things that you might not have signed up for. So the main thing is, if a job is hounding you to hire you, or if a job is hounding you to interview you, it's either one, a job that has a high turnover rate and does not value its employees or offer much, or the job itself is rigorous or tedious or what have you, or two, it's a marketing job. So they will either contact you by text and say, hey, we saw that you applied. Do you want to go ahead and set up a time in an interview? As a recent college grad, I know that this can be tempting because you're looking for a job. You want a job ASAP. So when you see that a job is so quick to reach out and get you in the door, you want to jump on it. But every single opportunity isn't a good opportunity. So that's one. They'll hound you. They'll call you by phone and say, hey, we saw that you applied, or they will text you or reach out to you on whatever service that you used, whether ZipRecruiter, Indeed, Job Fair, what have you, in order to apply. They'll reach out to you there. If they reach out right away, that's most likely something that indicates that the job is not good or the job is a scam. Also, they'll have things like immediate hire in the title line, or they'll have no training needed, or hiring immediately. I'll kind of pop a couple of these things that they've stated in the article here, and here, for you to see kind of what that verbiage looks like, that the job is clearly an indication that either one, as I said, is a scam, or is two, has a high turnover rate and it's really not a proficient job for you to even invest your energy in. So they'll most likely have that verbiage involved. They'll make you feel like you're the prime candidate, like there's actually some type of competitiveness between who's earning the job and who's not. So you'll kind of show your skills and want to, prove yourself. And then as you get into the actual level of process for the interview, you'll realize that you're being educated on the fact that you'll be selling a product. So it's funny because in this article, it actually states that there was a girl who went to an interview, and her interview looked like the employee who already worked for the company drove her to a neighborhood, told her to take one side of the street and he takes the other, and they had to sell on her first interview. That she didn't even get sit down and spoken to and asked what she was looking for her to at least politely decline. They threw her out into the field and expected her to excel, and she wasn't even signing up for that. To me, that sounds borderline scary, right? Like, there's a lot out here in terms of jobs that prey on people who are looking for something right away. And there are people who actually go through these processes and they will happily do marketing because maybe they do feel like, you know what, I am a salesman. I can sell whatever it is I own. I can educate anybody on anything. And those people should go ahead and, take opportunity of those jobs. But more oftentimes than not, we are all looking for something that's going to help us grow and teach us to excel. And a salesman is a salesman no matter what he's selling. So sometimes that's just not the career for you if you're looking for something that's really going to grow you. So a couple of those positive tips, as I said, I would take out the word marketing totally out of your resume, just because sometimes that in itself, they do SEO marketing to kind of detect what words you're using on there. So even if you're trying to spruce it up, right, and say that you were a marketing specialist or something like that, I would use a different word to associate whatever it is you did, because those marketing jobs will target your resume based off of what you said. So already kind of just start reworking your resume and seeing if there are any keywords that they could have used in order to detect you as a prime candidate, because sometimes your resume might say something and they'll say, oh, she's got experience, let's go for her. Also, I glass door every single job. Every single job I've gone to within the past couple of years, I will Glassdoor it first. Glassdoor is a review site that basically gives you the experience of the employees that currently work there or people who have attempted to interview. They'll let you know the interview process, what you need to bring, what, do they ask for assessments. They'll let you know everything through and through. They'll also let you know the company culture, everything. I look at all those tabs and really just assess if it's a job for me. The article also suggests to kind of know what type of company you want to work for. So let's say Apple, for instance, or Google. A lot of people who get hired at Google or Apple, they knew they wanted to work there years beforehand. Now, of course, sometimes you're not prepared, to go out into the job market and say, okay, I want to work for this person. But they say if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. So just to really start thinking about, okay, Apple, the reason why people want to work for Apple is because they accept and inspire and encourage the entrepreneur spirit, but they are still company culture. They are still corporate. They do still cut your check. You are still guaranteed money, right? So just kind of look for and kind of start delegating what type of personality that do you want your company culture to have. So I Glassdoor everything, and then let's just be honest, guys. Like if a job is worth if a job is worth having, it will take a while for you to get hired. There will be a level of processes that they will use to put you in the door, because any job that is really reputable and really something that can carry weight, they have a lot of funding behind them for pre-employment screening. So they have a lot of funding to take their time and, hire you as they go on. They're not going to hire you and walk you in the door immediately, because they want to make sure they have people who are solid. So I'm learning that now more than ever. Timing comes into play, and sometimes you need to set yourself up for success in the meantime, because you don't want to deplete all of your resources while you're finding something. You don't want to rush the company because you're in a rush, because you're broke. You want to let everything take its time, because anything good takes time. And that's on period. So I hope that this video was helpful. Like I said, I know that a lot of people have gone through these marketing scams. So I will link the article below. If there's any other information in the article that I might have left out, that might have stood out to you, I definitely suggest to take a good read at the article. And I'll also invite some of my friends who work in HR and other careers that have been very resourceful about their information for jobs, so that we can all just kind of have a conversation collectively together and just talk about how this market operates. So thank you for watching this video. Hopefully I can do an Instagram live or some type of conversation, maybe within the comments or on another platform, maybe on my Instagram if you follow me on there, so that we can keep this conversation going, because as I said, there are a lot more people than you know in Texas who are surviving off of $15 an hour and making it look good. But let's be honest, we're all not getting our needs met. There is some type of earning potential that we should all be striving for that can meet our needs at least somewhat more than $15 an hour. And Texas is always constantly battling on if they want to raise that minimum wage, but I really think they should. 15 is actually the standard minimum wage for New York. It's already 15. So anything more than that is actually what's going to actually sustain you. 15 is enough to get yourself to and back from work and eat every pay period, but it's not enough to pay rent, pay your bills, pay insurance, pay car insurance, pay, everything else. So thanks for watching this video. As I said, I wanted to touch on topics that we really don't get the chance to talk about. Everybody just wants to look good and just wants to look like they're living as healthily as possible, but it's a struggle. It's a struggle out here to make sure that you are getting what you're deserved and that you are excelling in the way that you want. So thank you again for watching this video. If you have any additional other things that you can say to keep the conversation going, comment below. And once again, thank you. Have a good one.